There are many reasons why a person may not be successful at whatever it is that they want to be successful at, no matter what it is. Building wealth, or attaining status, or creating a feel-good partnership, or getting a specific qualification or credential, or being the parent that they want to be, or reaching enlightenment, or creating a sense of freedom in their life, or achieving any other specific goal. But in today's episode, I'm going to reveal one of the absolute top reasons why people never succeed. A big, and I mean big, reason that many people never succeed is that they are unwilling to choose pain for the sake of what they want. They are stuck in a state of contrast avoidance. Anything, I repeat, anything you choose to succeed at will come with a certain set of contrast, a certain pain. Success is out of the comfort zone. If you want to succeed, you need to be willing to choose that contrast and that pain, and you will be limited in terms of success by what pain you are unwilling to take for what you want. Now that I've said this, let's dive deeper. Most people alive today have the following subconscious goal: to get to a point where life only feels good and to avoid anything that would make them feel bad. And one of the biggest lies that you have been sold is that it is possible to get to a point where life only feels good with no negatives and where no unwanted things happen anymore. That is a state of endedness. Contrast is one of the integral elements of this time-space reality. What I mean by contrast is the existence of and the perception of polarities, such as positive and negative, wanted and unwanted, dark and light, pain and pleasure. Contrast is the root of both personal and universal expansion. You are meant to sort through the wanted and unwanted elements of this time-space reality so as to give rise to desire, and then to line up with that desire with your thoughts, words, and actions. Doing so causes a person to actualize the expansion, but this improved state of being will come with a brand new set of contrast. And so the process starts all over again, propelling the person into an ever-expanding state of being. For example, let's say that a person really wants to have a life in nature on a self-sustainable farm. By actualizing their desire, they may have things like a sense of independence and freedom, the peacefulness of the natural world, a life that is wholesome, high-quality food, and simplicity. But they may also experience things like inconvenience, lots of labor that needs to be done, and done personally in order to maintain things, a feeling of disconnection from the rest of society, and a decrease in financial income, and they will have to say yes to those things. So much of the process of expansion is about choosing pain for the sake of what matters most to you, and once you have done that, continually making changes so as to resolve, or at least decrease that pain that you feel as a result of having made that choice. Relative to most forms of success, there are also degrees of that success. And as a person sets their sights on ever higher degrees of success, they will come face to face with the fact that to continue on their path to greater levels of success, they must choose even greater pain for the sake of what they want. Essentially, they will run into their own limitations, and they will be limited by what pain they are unwilling to choose for what they want. This is the reason why there are so many sayings out there about success and sacrifice, such as, if you are unwilling to sacrifice for what you want will become the sacrifice. I'm sure you've heard that one. Many people go for what they want, but the minute that doing so creates pain in their life, especially relative to any other sector of their life, they back off and uncommit to it. They limit themselves so as to keep themselves in a state of comfort. Basically, they want to keep themselves feeling good. So that you can understand this, I'm going to give you two examples. Timothy is 26 years old. Timothy has his sights set on a more traditional picture of success. He wants to be completely financially free and to get a sense of importance by creating a cutting-edge data analysis software based off of his special talent at seeing the shortcomings of the current systems that are available. Timothy has a finance job at a prestigious financial firm. He spent a lot of his life competing in sports and feels a deep need for athletics in order to stay mentally, emotionally, and physically stable. He really cares about his father's approval, and he also loves leisure time. As Timothy progresses on his path to the success he has in his mind, he becomes aware that in order to get his software to take off, He's going to have to be open to moving from place to place as the need arises. And he needs his fiancée to be supportive enough of his success to either go with him from place to place, or at the very least, for her to let him go for weeks at a time while she stays where they currently are. Uh-oh. Timothy's fiancée will not do this. She has two relationship boundaries. The first is her partner is with her living a together life. She's not by herself for more than a week at most, a couple of times per year. The second is they stay where they are because she is very dedicated to the animal rescue organization that she works for. It is, after all, what she feels to be her life purpose. The few times that they have talked this over, it has gone terribly because Timothy's fiancé will not take the certain pain that he has presented her with for the sake of having a harmonious relationship with Timothy. Timothy's now at a choice point. In order to succeed with his career, his partnership with his fiancée must end, and he must decide to eventually look for a partner who will sign up for being flexible according to the needs of his success. Timothy has hit a limitation. Timothy is in love with his fiancée and is unable to say yes to the pain of losing her for the sake of his career success. So he limits his own success by staying in the job he currently has and by postponing the idea of creating his software until he can potentially find a partner who can go into this endeavor with him, who would be able to be the one to travel as the business needs arise. Hold the phone, because Timothy's issue is not just about his fiancée, it's about taking pain in general. He can only commit to something to the degree that it doesn't cause him pain. Timothy wants to build relationship security with his fiancée, but when she needs him to be there for her on a day where he has a soccer game planned, he's unwilling to take the pain of not doing his sports. Timothy wants to move to a section of town where the rent is much cheaper, so he can save up the money to succeed at being even more financially free, but his father has expressed disapproval at him going anywhere that would decrease his status. Timothy cannot take the pain of his father's disapproval, so what does he do? He stays put, making it harder to reach his financial goals. Timothy wants to be an entrepreneur, but his leisure time matters to him. So, when being an entrepreneur means taking the pain of working during a national holiday, he refuses and takes 3 days off instead. Timothy is playing an exhausting game where he calculates what to do and not do based off of the avoidance of taking any pain past a certain threshold in any sector of his life. Timothy will forever be limited in every sector of his life by virtue of the pain he is unwilling to sign up for in any of the sectors of his life. And this kind of extreme balancing act will only be right for Timothy if he consciously signs up to the pain of his success being limited in each one of these sectors. But let's pretend that Timothy were not so hell-bent on living his life to avoid pain. He might end up finding out that what is right for him is to limit his success in his entrepreneurship so that he can have success at having a feel-good marriage with his fiancée. But to choose to take pain relative to his father disapproving of him to gain success at building up the money to invest. But the thing is, he's not going to be confused about why he's not becoming a successful entrepreneur when other men are, because he is choosing limitations based on pain that he is not willing to say yes to, and they are. Ken is also a man who has his sights set on a more traditional picture of success. He wants to be completely financially free, and he wants to start a new brand of backcountry ski wear. Ken has a fiancée and a job with a lot of authority at a sports outfitting company. Like Timothy, Ken spent a lot of his life competing in sports, but in his case, winter sports. He feels a deep need for athletics in order to stay mentally, emotionally, and physically stable. Sound familiar? He really cares about his father's approval, and he loves his leisure time. It's like these two men were cut from the same stone, except for one thing. Ken is willing to bleed for the sake of succeeding at what's most important to him. And because of this, he's very good at prioritizing. Ken realizes that in order to become the entrepreneur he was meant to be, he will need to quit his job. His father will not approve because his father was the one who used his personal contacts to get him that job. Ken decides to take the pain of his father's disapproval, and he has to sit through many tongue lashings and criticism and put up with the feeling of lack of support and disapproval. Ken realizes that succeeding at starting his new brand means moving out of the country. Why? Because if he doesn't, he'll be breaking the clauses of his current employee non-compete contract. He takes this to his fiancée. She sets a hard boundary that she is not leaving the country on account of all of her friends and her family. She says she could try a long-distance relationship maybe, that is, until he is able to move back. But Ken does not want to be in a long-distance relationship. He realizes that there is a huge incompatibility between them. If he wants to be as successful as he can be at his new skiwear business, he will need a partner who will be flexible enough to enable his success by going with him, even if that means moving overseas. So, in order to become successful, he has to face the unthinkable for him. He has to break off the engagement. The amount of pain this causes him is ineffable. He will have to move to a different country alone. He will be starved of a sense of partnership and physical affection, which, by the way, he really needs. He doesn't know if he will ever love somebody as much as he loves his current fiancée. But he also knows himself enough to know that his drive to succeed at his new brand is so intense that if he stays and limits himself for the sake of his fiancée, he will end up resenting her and having a style of relationship that he doesn't actually want. One where he has to hold himself back for the sake of accommodating her best interests. Because of this, he knows he can't make that choice. Being an entrepreneur means dedicating his time and energy to making his new brand all that it can be. So what does this mean? Sometimes he has to deal with foregoing the opportunity to do sports. Oh, believe me, he hates the feeling of missing out when everyone else he knows is getting together to go backcountry skiing. But it is pain that he is choosing to take in order to succeed in the way that he has his sights set on. Ken is willing to say yes to a lot of pain for the sake of the success that he wants. And as a result, he has less limits on his success than Timothy does. As a result, unlike Timothy, Ken finds a partner who is happy to be flexible and lend her energy to his career success. And he does launch his new brand and builds it to the point where when he decides to sell it off to one of the biggest outdoor product brands in the entire world, he is truly financially free. During this process, the way that Ken continued his expansion in the direction of a feel-good life was to find solutions for the pain that he has chosen, such as working through his terror about his father's disapproval with an online psychologist and buying himself a treadmill that fits under his desk so that he can move his body while he's working on the computer, and immediately joining groups who share the same interests in the new country that he's moved to, and getting massages regularly, as well as getting into a friends with benefits arrangement to offset the starvation for physical touch, and giving himself leisure time only as an in-breath in response to the award of accomplishments that he makes in his business endeavors. It is very tempting to look at what is important for another person and make it right or wrong according to what is most important to you. Society does this, and according to what you wish was most important to other people. For the sake of this conversation, though, I want you to put down your judgments about all that and simply realize that if you want success at anything, you will be tested regarding what pain you are willing to take, what contrast you're willing to sign up for in order to attain that success. By all means, the first thing you should do is to look really hard to find a way to make things work in a way where you don't have to take pain that isn't necessary in order to achieve the success that you have in mind. But at the end of the day, you will find yourself in lose-loses, where you must be willing to take pain for what you want and for what truly matters to you. If you want to understand more about this topic, you can watch 3 of my videos titled Why You Should Consciously Choose Consequences, Want to Succeed, What Pain Will You Say Yes To, and The Ticket to an Empowered Life. Each person is unique, and so each person must work out for themselves what is right for them regarding how far they are willing to go with their picture of success, based off of what pain they will and will not say yes to. Sometimes the pain you must say yes to is admitting to a way that you are going to choose to limit yourself. Have a good week.